alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you so much for having some time today to speak to us.
Barakallahu feek, Akhi Tamir, always a pleasure.
Allah barik feek, Sheikh. Sheikh, so we've had a few things that have come up amongst the youth in the Sydney community, specifically around the topic of the Ash'ari Aqidah and things that are causing confusion amongst the brothers of Ahlus Sunnah. So one of the misconceptions that they bring up is that they say the great leaders and the conquerors of the past have historically always been Ash'aris. Like they say Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi was from the Ash'ari, and the conquerors are always of this persuasion in Aqidah. So does this mean, or is this a sign that the Ash'ari Aqidah is 100% correct?
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. Regarding what you mentioned, Akhi Tamir, this is what the ulama of Ahlus Sunnah consider to be one of the shubah, the misconceptions that the people of innovation try to use to justify their falsehood. And that is the claim that many of those who open the lands in Islam, or many of our ulama, the scholars of Islam, were actually Ash'aris, and that is a dalil to the Ash'ari Aqidah being truth. And there's no doubt that this statement is false from a number of aspects. We say first and foremost that someone being upon the Ash'ari Aqidah and achieving something in Islam does not in any way mean that the Ash'ari Aqidah is correct. And if we take the example of Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi rahimahullah that you mentioned, this is a perfect example, because Salah ad-Din, he was a fighter and he was a warrior. To use Salah ad-Din rahimahullah as a figure of Aqidah, this in itself is incorrect, regardless of what he believed himself. He would be the first one to tell you he's not a scholar of Aqidah or whatever else. So using this type of analogy is without a doubt false. Yes, Salah ad-Din did what he did for the Ummah, and he opened the land of Palestine and whatever else, but this is something, and what he was upon in terms of his creed is something else. He is not someone that is recognized because of his Aqidah. He is someone who is recognized because of his achievement on the battlefield. Secondly, regarding the scholars that we hear the people of innovation referring to.
I hear a lot about like Ibn Nawawi, Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani. Constantly mention these people as the great Ash'aris of our time. This is somehow an evidence for the correctness of the Ash'ari thought.
Excellent. And it is usually those two Imams rahimahumullah in particular that the Ash'ari like to quote again as a support for themselves. And the scholars of Ahlus Sunnah have refuted this claim many times regarding the two great Imams, Ibn Hajar and Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah. And the first thing that we establish is that they were great scholars of Islam, great scholars of the Sunnah, without a doubt. And as the ulama of Islam said, they were Ahlus Sunnah in what they agreed with Ahlus Sunnah with, and whatever they made mistakes in, we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to have mercy on us and them in the next life. But with the likes of Ibn Hajar and Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah, the reason why the Ash'aris in reality cannot use them as a dalil to support themselves is, first and foremost, in order to understand what an Ash'ari is, or when you understand what an Ash'ari is, you will come to realize that Imam al-Nawawi and Ibn Hajar rahimahumullah, they were not Ash'ari. And our scholars say that because they say that agreeing with a sect in one or two of the masail of Aqidah does not mean that you are attributed to the Aqidah. So the Ash'ari in general, they have opposed Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah in over 20 masail in Aqidah.
That's 20 issues.
20 issues in Aqidah, up to 22, some of our ulama said. So when you look at Imam Ibn Hajar and Imam al-Nawawi rahimahumullah, yes, Ibn Hajar and Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah, they did agree with the Ash'aris in the door or the chapter of Asma wa Sifat, and even that was not entirely. In other words, they did do ta'wil of the Sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but this was not constant and frequent with Ibn Hajar in particular. And the proof for that is in his Fath, his Sharh of Sahih al-Bukhari. Imam Ibn Hajar rahimahullah, you find him in some chapters he agrees with the Ash'ari madhab, and then in other chapters he will oppose the Ash'ari madhab by affirming the sifat. He will do this sometimes and he will do that sometimes. This shows that he is not as they claim to be an Ash'ari. And even for argument's sake, if he was someone that did always do ta'wil of the sifat, and Imam al-Nawawi was the same, we said the aqidah of the Ash'ari is a aqidah in over 20, or their khilaf is in over 20 things. So Imam al-Nawawi and Ibn Hajar agreeing with one thing does not mean they are from them.
Right.
And this is what Ibn Uthaymin rahimahullah mentioned, and he said it is incorrect to call them Ash'ari because they did not agree with the Ash'ari in everything. The Ash'ari have a aqidah in Iman, they have a aqidah in Qadr, they have a aqidah in many aspects of creed. And to say that Ibn Hajar and Imam al-Nawawi agreed with the Ash'ari in everything is incorrect, and there is no proof for this whatsoever. So there's a difference between someone who might have made a mistake and agreed with some aspect or one aspect in particular of the Ash'ari aqidah, and then to say
influence at the time,
without a doubt,
especially when the rulers at the time had also been affected by ilm al-kalam, philosophical rhetoric, things like that.
Without a doubt, the environment they were in and so forth. So there's a difference between someone who might have agreed in one thing and someone who has taken the entire aqidah of the Ash'ari, which Imam al-Nawawi and Ibn Hajar did not do, and that's why we cannot call them in reality Ash'ari or from the Ash'ari sect.
Such a thought-provoking answer, Sheikh.